Eid-ul-Adha, the great Eid, the Eid of sacrifice, 3 days where Muslims rejoice. But what are they rejoicing over? It's a great story. It's the story of family. It's the story of being vulnerable. It's the story of a headstrong woman. It's the story of a father-son relationship. It's the story of refugees. It's a story that can, in many perspectives, bring us together. Abraham, the father of the Abrahamic traditions, his narrative, but the narratives of the headstrong women and the wise young children that make his family whole, is something that we reflect upon, to the extent where we reflect upon the challenge when he is asked to sacrifice his son. For any father, that could be something unthinkable. And yet, as the story ends, the family are told, you have been challenged in many walks of your lives, but today you will sacrifice a lamb in place of sacrificing your son. And so Muslims around the world are challenged to either go to the place where Abraham and his son lived throughout their later days, the area now known as Mecca. Muslims are challenged, if they can't go to make the pilgrimage to the lands of the Prophet Muhammad in Mecca, that they instead do not cut their nails, do not cut our hairs, engage in optional fasts, and then, whether you are a Hujjaj, a pilgrim, or you are somebody who is engaged in reflection at home, this story brings us to life as a family as we celebrate by eating something sweet in the morning, washing ourselves, putting on our best clothes, putting on our perfumes, making sure we feel and smell good, and then traveling to the mosque where we come together to engage in reflection and then to spend the day joyously enjoying our company and the company of others. We are encouraged in these 10 days prior to Eid to do as much kind acts as we can, to do as many random acts of kindness, to do as much charity as possible, but also to prepare financially, to sacrifice an animal so that people somewhere in the world can have the option to meat. It might not mean that everybody is comfortable with eating meat, but we all have a right to those options. And when people are vulnerable and people are oppressed, their options are taken away from them. And this is what we learn from the story of Abraham. And so it's very much a time of family. It's very much a time to remember that life is temporary, but those who are around us are the ones that keep us strong. This South Asian Heritage Month is one in which I reflect on having an Eid where my grandmother is no longer here. For my grandfather, who left Hoshiarpur in India in 1947, his first Eid in Faisalabad in the refugee camps was nothing like the Eids as a smaller child in India with his Sikh, Hindu and Jain friends. And so this South Asian Heritage Month, I want to remember my grandparents who grew up in India and grew up in Pakistan later, and how their stories of life have influenced me as a British Asian today. And so as I celebrate my Eid-ul-Adha and I reflect upon this great prophet of the Middle East, I allow my identity to give me warmth, comfort and direction, but to also share in this blessing with all of my neighbours, regardless of their background. So to you I say, Eid Sa'id, Eid Mubarak, Eid blessings to you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and words of peace and praise and love to all of you. Eid Mubarak.